head of unit for digital innovation and blockchain in the digital single market here in DG Connect in the European Commission, which is the place that you are. And then a short explanation for those of you who don't know the background of all the initiatives on blockchain. We have, first of all, the EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum, which is actually something that was given to us by the European Parliament. Actually, deputy member of European Parliament, who has now returned to be chief economist of the German Ministry of Finance, Jakob van Weidecker. And this is what's called the European Parliament Pilot Project. This is the open and analytic part of our blockchain initiatives, which flow directly from the EU FinTech Action Plan, which the European Commission presented last year in March, and which is chaired by DG FISMA, who's also present today, and DG Connect in my person. So these workshops are part of this analytic activity to raise the level of knowledge, visibility through mapping, workshops, and the communities of what's happening in blockchain in Europe and beyond. So we're very happy. I mean, many of you are serial participants, so we're glad that you're still interested in participating. Some of you are maybe coming for the first time because you also may be coming from the communities of AI, IoT, as well as blockchain, and we're very much looking at this convergence as one of the areas where we think blockchain can be one of the layers that will enable us to have more distributed, democratic, and decentralized systems, which might make the most of Europe's strengths in areas like machine learning, artificial intelligence, IoT, as well as in blockchain, utilizing tools like tokenization and smart contracts. So again, this is a very welcome set of inputs to our policy making, and also that we make available to all of you for your business decisions or your policy making. We also have, which is coming up the week after next, the European Blockchain Partnership, which are 29 European countries, as I understand from Bruno, who's our main person in charge of that in the unit, that we will soon be 30, that Croatia is sending us experts, but they have to sign the declaration first. They're the only ones who haven't signed the declaration now of the current EU member states. So 29, soon to be 30 countries, and they and we are building a European blockchain services infrastructure in the Connecting Europe facility, which is our digital infrastructure program in the European Commission, along with transport and energy infrastructures. This is at the moment a member states initiative, but the declaration itself says that it's going to be a public-private partnership. So some of the future use cases could include public-private participation. And the first use cases will be in the RegTech and diplomas and document certification, as well as self-sovereign identity areas. And those are already deploying this year or starting to deploy, maybe completing deployment for a couple of them already this year. And then finally, which we support, and there's also, I know, members here today, the International Association of Trusted Blockchain Applications, which is the association of private stakeholders. So we're very happy to see that they'll be having their media launch on the 3rd of April. They've already had their legal start, and there's, as I say, members here who might want to say something about their activities during the day. And in the autumn, they will be with us organizing a World Blockchain Congress, which will include a regulatory dialogue. And there, the Commission is very happy to be present. We'll also have institutions like the United Nations, the World Bank, European Investment Bank, hopefully all the member states who will be invited to join a government advisory board, as well as governments from all other countries such as Japan, Canada, Australia, the United States, etc. I think we have colleagues here from the OECD who we have excellent cooperation with on also, and we hope also that they might join in this INATBA. Sorry about that. In this INATBA endeavor. And then finally, and I will be, I think, mercifully short because we want to get on to the subjects at hand. We are looking to the next European Commission, different from some of the stereotypes. It's not us, the civil servants, who make decisions on what might be some of the legislative initiatives and so on, but we're preparing the ground on what might be parts of the legislative program. These decisions will be made by the politicians who will join us, who will lead us in November and when there's a next European Parliament. But workshops like this are feeding into the knowledge base, the evidence base, on the basis of which you will have the decisions and propositions. So if there are areas like smart contracts, tokenization, infrastructure liability, barriers to blockchain rollout, this is the time to tell us, to tell the observatory and this evidence base that's on the analytic in the analytic background of this think tank are what will set up these future decisions. And with that, I mean, I'm happy to hand over the floor already to the colleagues from the Observatory and Forum. We from the Commission will be here all day listening and taking part, but listening more to all of you. And the Observatory and Forum will now take over the chairmanship of the event and introduce the first expert speakers.
Thank you very much, Peteris. Thanks a lot for this introduction, Peteris. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ludovic Courcelas. I'm project manager for the EU Blockchain Observatory and Forum. I work alongside the Observatory team with here Ken Timsit and Claire Pion also. And here in the room, you also have all the great people from the European Commission who are working also on this project. You have Chiara here and other people from the European Commission DG Connect who are here in the room. So thank you very much for joining us today. I see many new faces. This topic has attracted many people here today. Of course, there is a lot of hype around these three technologies and around blockchain technology, as you all know. And really, the objective of today will be to dive into this topic and see how we can identify the convergence of these three technologies. Here today we are in a very big room because a lot of people were interested, but please keep in mind that these discussions are workshop discussions. So you are the actors of the day. Even though we are here seated with the observatory team in front of you, it's all together that we'll be coming around this topic and coming out with outputs at the end of the day. So please, you all have microphones on your desk. I apologize for the people at the end of the room who don't, but please feel free to reach out, raise your voice on these topics. We need you. You are the experts today for the workshop. So, very brief introduction today. I will be brief. We are going to talk about these three technologies. And I think that it is very important just to sit down a moment, to look beyond the hype, and to see these three technologies very simply, what value they can bring. And if we look at these three technologies, we actually can simplify their value with blockchain, which is actually all about transfer of value, decentralization, and smart contract automation. If we narrow down this very broad topic into three main capabilities. Artificial intelligence, for its part, is really about autonomous analysis, some skills such as visual and speech recognition, and finally, the ability to take decisions and act with what has been learned by the technology through machine learning, for example, or through algorithms. And finally, IoT. IoT is all about collecting data about the real world and being able to take actions into this real world. We have the two first technologies, which are, of course, very virtual. And the IoT part is the link with the real world that will be able to connect this digital world with our real lives. And if we see and if we look at these technologies, they have each one main pain point. And with that aspect, we can foresee, and this will be the topic of the day, and this will be discussed much further during the day, but we can see that actually each of them has a weakness. For the blockchain technology, blockchain works great, but in its closed environment. And so the question you have to ask here is how you put data that can be trusted on the chain. And so this is a really important pain point that has to be researched and that has to be fixed. And we will see today how AI and IoT can fix this problem. For artificial intelligence, I'm not learning you anything new. Artificial intelligence is really data hungry because artificial intelligence is almost entirely based on having the possibility to access readily available data that will be used to train these algorithms and to make sure that they work properly. So artificial intelligence needs, of course, data in large amounts and data that can be trusted, data that can be used. And finally, IoT. IoT, of course, which is the last topic that has brought a lot of hype recently, even more with the coming in the next 2-3 years of 5G, which is announced as the main leverage for the development of the technology. But what we can see today is that, yes, we can deploy sensors, yes, we can use them, yes, we can leverage them, but still we can have some issues with trusting the data that is coming from the sensors. And so we will see today how we can fix that issue. From what I just said, we can actually identify a few use cases and a few applications with the convergence of these three technologies. And of course, this will be the topic of today, so I'm not going to dive too deeply into that aspect, but just to name a few. Blockchain and artificial intelligence, you need data. Blockchain could be leveraged, and this will be explored today, on creating marketplaces to enable the sharing of data and making sure that we can provide data to these algorithms to make sure that we can train them properly and access this data. Blockchain and IoT, of course, we are getting a lot of data from these devices, but we could get more, and we could get more quality data. And this could be incentivized through the economic theory and leveraging, of course, blockchain as the trust layer. And finally, AI and IoT, just to take one example. We, of course, need a lot of data, and this directly, the data that is produced through IoT is a very large amount that could feed directly artificial intelligence. When we talk about these three topics and the convergence of these technologies, we are actually talking about a much broader movement that is happening these days. And this movement is the direction we are taking toward smart cities, toward better and more intelligent international trade, toward the very innovative fintech use cases, smart healthcare, and smart agriculture. Everything that you see today that has the prefix smart is something that brings a lot of hype, but we usually don't know what is behind that. And usually you have one of these three technologies, or a combination of these three technologies, that is here to serve as a base layer to the solutions that are built on these very industries. But what we can see in the ecosystem is that actually, who in the room here would be able to cite any large-scale project that is effectively combining the three technologies? I think that there are only a few people that could name projects that are here at very large scale. And so one of the main objectives of the day will be to identify the use cases that are really relevant, that bring real value, and see, we are very lucky here in the room to have some people who are actually working on projects that are live, that are in production. And so these people will be able to give us feedback and give us their expertise on what they have built. So we are very lucky here to have these people in the room. Main objectives of the day, as you've understood, it's all about convergence, very easy aspects, and we are going to really deep dive on use cases. This is the most important aspect. Sometimes in the workshop, you might feel that conversations might be a bit high level and focused on use cases. And this might be true, and this is mainly due to the current development and maturity of the technology. As I said before, there are only a few use cases that are in production. So here we are talking about the future and not really about what is happening today. But it's very important to prepare this future, make sure that here in the room we discuss about the right measures and the right solutions in order to enable this future. And so this is what we are going to have as discussion for today. With mainly in the morning, as you can see in the agenda, presentations from the research perspective, but also from the industry perspective, and coming together with a discussion on these use cases. And the afternoon session, for those of you who are not used to our workshops, we are used to have working sessions where in the afternoon, the floor is yours, really, even if in the morning the floor is yours also, where we have a strong collaboration and strong thinking around a few challenges that we are currently meeting in the industry. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Tim, our first speaker here today, who is going to talk about the tokenization of physical assets and the impact of artificial intelligence and IoT. Please welcome Tim on stage.